her bare leg around his torso, soft and delicate against the heat of his skin. Her hands around his neck, craving to clutch on his robe, tighter, but couldn't. His every word, his hot breath, a sinful add-on. She whimpered, whenever his soft lips touched her face. He let out a low chuckle, his hand slid to her waist, pulling her dangerously closer. Her heartbeat rose, but she dared not to utter a single word. He asked, but his hands on her waist kept pulling her closer. She bit her lower lip. He clearly didn't want her to get up. She looked in his eyes, her lips parting. Baby? This is what he called her, his voice working like a spell on her. Her mind screamed for him to ruin her. Then a sudden shift in the air. She saw him giving a lick to his lips. She inhaled those heavenly words, and somehow managed to smile between his kisses. Was he expecting those words? No. His slow breathing, processing her words, he felt special, so special. He gulped and a smile tugged at his lips. His one hand cupped her cheek, caressing it. It didn't take her long. Her heart led the way. She leaned in and kissed him. It deepened in mere seconds. His breath hitched, his eyes widened, but he pulled her flush against him. She pulled back after what felt like an eternity locked in that kiss. Their lips parted, but their foreheads met. His fingers trembling as they clutched the fabric of his own shirt that she wore. His voice cracked. He couldn't finish. She glanced down, his knuckles white, hands shaking. She watched him, as if memorizing his state. And instead of words, that was it. That was all it took. In the blink of an eye, into need, into devotion, he lifted, like she weighed nothing, and laid her down. His lips kissed her forehead with love, and then found her lips again, slower, deeper. His hand began. The room was silent, only the soft crackle of the fire and their uneven breathing echoed. His arms trembled, body coated in a fine sheen of sweat. Every breath he took was heavy. His lips were parted, his body begged to rest, to lay, but he held himself up, not wanting to put his weight on her. Wyan, whose breathing was no better, stared at him, her chest rising and falling. Raising her arms slowly, she wrapped them around his neck, pulling him into her embrace without hesitation. He melted into her, his face burying itself into the crook of her neck, his mouth open, breath warm and shaky against her skin. He didn't collapse, he rested. He He chuckled again, self-deprecating and gentle, still speaking into her neck, hiding from her eyes. The words came out fast, sincere, fierce, that made him smile. A smirk appeared on his lips. He suddenly backed off. Not completely, just enough to let her witness that smirk. She looked at him with her curious doe eyes. Her eyes widened, realizing what she had just implied. Her gaze trailed down, her cheeks turned crimson. She let out a flustered gasp and quickly brought her hands to her face, shielding her eyes. Taehyung's sharp senses caught the moment. He softly held her one hand, pulling it down from her face and placing it against his chest, right where his heart was. She finally looked at him, lips parting to say something, but nothing came. Her fingers twitched against his chest, his words still echoing in her ears. She looked down at where her palm rested and slowly moved it, trailing it upwards. And he stopped, eyes still closed, forehead resting against her, but her eyes, they glistened. Tears slipped down her cheek, full of love she had buried for so long. She smiled, and then she placed a delicate peck on his lips. It stirred something in him, pulling him out of his trance. She waited and got his tears in reply. She looked at him as his tears fell directly on her cheek. She smiled, her fingertips brushing his soft cheeks. She didn't ask him to stop crying, she wanted him to let it out. A choked sob escaped his lips at those words. She smiled tenderly, pressing gentle kisses on both of his closed eyes, as if sealing his pain away. He let her, he needed it. She made sure he knew. He deserved every ounce of this love. Every kiss, every touch, every heartbeat. He deserves her. And she wasn't going anywhere. She wiped away the tears trailing down his cheeks, her tone so gentle as if the tears were something sacred. He gave her a smile, small, shaky, enough to melt her completely, and then leaned in, finally sealing her lips with his. It was a kiss full of love, fragile devotion, unspoken promises. He didn't need his eyes to see. Her voice was enough to let him know what he was doing to her. His hands roamed now. Under his touch, nothing felt wrong. It was raw, consuming discovery. The night had long surrendered to morning. They both inside of the blanket. Wyan gave a little wiggle in her sleep, burrowing deeper into his chest, stealing whatever heat he had left. Taehyung, lying there with her heart beating against his eyes fluttered open to the same familiar darkness, but this time the first thing he felt was her, the weight of her love wrapped around him. Her cheeks, the soft tip of her nose, and finally her lips. His heart throbbed. How beautiful. Voice husky from sleep and heavy with emotion. Sleep didn't return to him, but this time he didn't wake her. He simply held her like the treasure she was. Finally her lashes fluttered open. Her first sighed, his bare chest rising gently beneath her cheek. Her two eyes kept looking at him. He reached the counter, exact place. She was indeed surprised, and then, as gentle as ever, he placed her softly on the counter. That sweet smile on her lips just wouldn't fade. She watched him with quiet affection as he blindly reached out. After they were done, he now came towards her with a small wet towel. She squinted playfully, disbelief, half giggled, threatening to fall. His voice, sweet like honey, so soft, he said it so lovingly. It silenced her completely. Her eyes wandering wherever he walked, after they were done with everything, he once again stopped right in front of her, and this time held her in his arms, bridal style. He gave a loving sweet kiss on her forehead and went towards the kitchen with her in his arms. The whole day he didn't let her walk, no exaggeration, he truly carried her in his arms, as if letting her go would crumble the world. And he loved it, her in his arms, like the place she owned. The day flowed like soft lullaby, quiet giggles over shared meals, long talks, peaceful walk in the backyard. a day that didn't ask for much, just low, quiet, steady. His voice came. She blinked, heart thudding at the shift in his tone. He smiled, just a little, and sighed. She slowly turned and reached up. He chuckled, low and soft, before placing his palm over hers. He leaned forward, their foreheads brushing. Her heart was heavy, but she knew what needed to be done must be faced. He pulled her in his arms, wrapping her in warmth, protection, and silent promise, his hand caressing the back of her head gently of the woman who was his little wife. And that's how the night faded. Days turned into weeks, weeks to months, and Taehyung kept his word. He became stronger. Every drop of sweat that hit the floor, a silent declaration that he would end what once broke him. He trained like a man possessed, as if alone could bring down empire. There were days he disappeared, nights when the mansion felt too quiet without his presence. But Hwayen's safety never once compromised. She was guarded more fiercely than a crown jewel, because to him she was more than that. She was oxygen. Hwayen indeed lived a little worried. Her heart trembled at the thought of what the final war would be. And then, one night, there he was again, in the training hall. The clock had long crossed midnight when Hwayen stayed awake and reached out to his side. Empty, cold, and she already knew where he was. Barefoot and quiet, she padded down the hallway. As expected, she found him throwing punches. His chest broader than before, he was surely bigger. His damp hair fell over his forehead, clinging near his eyes. He hadn't cut it. He looked raw, feral, and painfully tempting. Hwayen let out a sigh and walked in. Without a word, she reached up, fingers gently pushing his damp hair away from his forehead. He didn't move, just stood there, panting, but grounding himself through her touch. She took her hand back, folding her arms, his hand going to his chest, dramatic, the muscles in his bicep flexed. She said nothing, just looked at him, the fire he hid, quietly held his hands in hers, fingers brushed over his bruised knuckles, slightly blooded. No words, no scolding, just care. And then she wrapped her fingers around his wrist and pulled. He sat still on the edge of the bed. Hwayen gently held his hands in hers, cleaning the bruised knuckles. Her touch was delicate, like she was afraid of hurting that giant man. But he knew she was the one hurting. There was guilt in him, but God, he loved this too, the way she cared, the way she always. Softest voice, softest pleading, it cracked through every layer of her quiet anger, and she gave in. He froze, heart pounding, then wrapped those massive arms around her like she was all he had. Because she was. Completely taking her tiny frame in, she was small now. Or maybe it was him. He had grown bigger, stronger, broader. She pressed her cheek against his chest again, right over his heart, and nodded. Nothing more needed to be said. He was hers, she was his. 2 days, maybe three. That afternoon, the car rolled to a slow stop at the mansion's gate. The air was still, eerily so. Taehyung's driver opened the door and he stepped out first. Behind him, the second car halted. His men filed out, falling into his head tilted, the breeze carrying more of it, fresh, so much, and then his heart dropped. His breath hitched, fingers twitching violently before they curled into shaking fist. It took him no more than a second. He ran. Behind him, his man remained stuck. Everything in his way, vases, chairs, doors, either broke or was flung away. Panic devouring him whole, his guards came rushing in from every direction, uttering same words. How? Every wall, every path, every shadow, watched, guarded, sealed, and yet she was gone. His men lying cold, no survivors. His fists clenched until blood ran down his palms. He had reshaped hell to keep her safe. Still somehow, someone broke. He screamed. He roared like a king he was. Guards flinched to their bones and they scattered. His jaw tightened, expression blank as if turning to steel, but inside he was dying.